Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something simple but powerful. Your life changes the moment you decide to roll your snowball. Not a giant one, not a perfect one, just a small one, because greatness never begins with greatness. It begins with a decision, a tiny action, a single step in the right direction. Most people wait for a big opportunity, a big moment, a big burst of motivation. But life doesn't reward the big. Life rewards the consistent. The tiny, the steady, the disciplined. If you can push a small snowball for 1 day, you can push it for 2. And if you can push it for 2, you can push it for 10. And then suddenly, something magical happens. The snowball starts rolling you. At first, growth feels slow. You read 1 page, you wake up a little earlier, you save a little money. It's easy to ignore these small wins, but if you repeat them long enough, they become your identity. And identity is the birthplace of momentum, because once you start seeing yourself differently, you behave differently. People often ask, why am I not successful yet? The answer is simple, your snowball is still small. Keep rolling it. Don't quit within the first week, the first month, or even the first year. Your habits need time to compound. Your discipline needs time to strengthen. Your character needs time to mature. Success isn't a miracle, it's a process. It's the result of small disciplines piling up day after day until they become unstoppable. And when that snowball finally gains speed, your life will transform so fast, people will call it luck. But you will know the truth. It was the long hours, the quiet mornings, the repeated efforts, things nobody saw. If you want a bigger life, build a bigger you. If you want extraordinary results, start with ordinary actions repeated consistently. Plant the seed, water it daily, and let time do its work. The snowball effect is real. Start today, start small, and never stop rolling. Every small discipline you practice today becomes a powerful force tomorrow. And this simple truth holds more wisdom than most people ever realize. Human beings tend to underestimate the power of small. We look at our dreams and goals, and instantly our minds jump to the big actions, the big breakthroughs, the big moments of glory. But life rarely works that way. Success does not appear suddenly like a lightning strike. It grows quietly like a seed planted deep in the soil. Those small disciplines, those little choices you repeat, are the water, the sunlight, and the nourishment that help that seed break through the ground. If you care for it just a little every day, it becomes almost impossible for it not to grow. Imagine a person who decides to read 10 minutes a day, just 10 minutes. On the first day, nothing changes. On the second day, still no visible difference, but over a year, that person reads more than 60 hours. Over 5 years, that small choice builds a sharper mind, clearer thinking, better communication, and greater opportunity. And all of it came from a discipline so small, most people would overlook it. Another person decides to walk for 20 minutes each morning. Nothing dramatic happens the first week. But after months, their energy increases, their confidence grows, their health strengthens, and suddenly they feel like a new person. Once again, the transformation came from something small. This is why small disciplines are so powerful. They compound. They accumulate, they multiply. What begins as a tiny effort eventually becomes a force strong enough to reshape your life. A person who saves a small portion of their income each week slowly builds financial stability and confidence. A person who practices gratitude each morning slowly builds emotional strength and resilience. A person who speaks kindly, even when frustrated, slowly builds strong relationships and self-respect. These small daily disciplines stack up like bricks, forming the foundation of a completely different future. Most people misunderstand success because they focus too much on the results and too little on the habits that create those results. They see someone successful and say, "Wow, what a lucky break," but they never see the thousands of small actions that built that success over years of steady effort. They see the visible moment and miss the invisible preparation. If you want to change your life, you don't start with a giant leap. You start with one small step repeated consistently. It's not glamorous, but it's transformational. One of the greatest challenges is that small disciplines don't feel important in the moment. If you eat healthy today, nothing drastic happens. If you skip your healthy meal and choose junk food, still nothing drastic happens. The consequences of both appear slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until one day they become undeniable. This is why small disciplines require wisdom. You must learn to value what is easy to ignore and remain faithful to what doesn't show immediate results. Success favors those who are loyal to the process, even when the progress is too small to notice. It's also important to understand that small disciplines work in both directions. Just as tiny positive choices build a great future, tiny negative habits can quietly destroy it. A little procrastination, a little excuse, a little laziness repeated over time can become a powerful force working against you. That's the great truth. You cannot escape the compound effect. It will either work for you or against you. Your future will be the result of the small choices you make every single day. When you adopt even one small discipline, your life begins to shift. You feel a little more in control. You gain a little more confidence. You build a little more momentum, and over time, these little improvements snowball. You begin to think, if I can improve a little here, maybe I can improve a little there too. A single small discipline often leads to another, and then another. Before long, you've built a chain of positive habits that support you, strengthen you, and shape the person you are becoming. Think about it this way: every discipline is a vote for your future. Each time you choose growth over comfort, you cast a vote for a stronger, more capable version of yourself. And the more votes you cast, the clearer your identity becomes. You begin to see yourself as someone who is committed, someone who follows through, someone who does what needs to be done. When your identity shifts, your behavior naturally follows. You no longer force discipline. You become disciplined. You no longer struggle to start. You feel uncomfortable not doing the things that move your life forward. That's the real magic of small disciplines. They don't just change your habits, they change you. They help you evolve into the person who naturally creates success instead of the person who waits for it. And the moment you become that person, success stops being a distant dream and starts becoming a natural outcome of who you are. This is why every small discipline matters. Nothing is too insignificant. Nothing is too small. Your entire future is shaped by the choices you repeat. And the best part: you're always just one small discipline away from beginning a brand new chapter of your life. Personal growth accelerates when you stay consistent. Once the snowball starts rolling, your habits begin to work for you instead of against you. And this simple truth carries more power than most people recognize. At the beginning of any journey, everything feels uphill. The first few days of a new goal often feel exciting, but eventually the excitement fades and discipline must take over. That's the moment most people stop. Not because the goal is impossible, not because they're incapable, but because they never stayed consistent long enough to feel the momentum that consistency creates. The snowball effect only begins after you push through that early friction, and once it starts rolling, something incredible happens. Your life starts helping you instead of resisting you. Think of consistency as the spark that lights a chain reaction. The first push is always the hardest. Waking up early for the first week feels unnatural. Reading daily feels like effort at the beginning. Working on your craft or skill feels slow and unrewarding at first. Nothing seems to be happening. You don't see results. You may even feel silly. But every day you show up, you're stacking energy, you're stacking habits, you're stacking proof that you're committed, and each piece of proof makes the next step just a little easier. Most people forget that the reward for consistency isn't just progress, it's momentum, and momentum is the most powerful force in personal growth. Once momentum takes over, your habits begin to work automatically. What used to feel difficult becomes natural. What used to require effort becomes part of your identity. It's the difference between forcing yourself to act and becoming the kind of person who naturally acts. When you repeat the same positive actions long enough, you no longer have to push yourself each day because the habit begins to pull you forward. This is the point where life feels lighter, where discipline starts feeling easier, where you wake up one day and realize you've become the kind of person you always wanted to be. But none of this happens without consistency. If you only act when you feel motivated, your snowball never grows. Motivation is temporary. Momentum is built. This is why the early days matter so much. At the beginning, results don't show up, but resistance does. Your old habits fight back. Your comfort zone tries to pull you in. Your mind whispers that it's too hard or too slow or too late. If you listen to that voice, you stay stuck. But if you remain consistent, if you keep showing up, you eventually quiet that voice. You prove to yourself that growth is possible, and you earn the reward of momentum. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. It means loyalty to your future. It means doing what you can, even on the days when everything inside you wants to stop. It means choosing long-term rewards over short-term comfort. When you're consistent, even imperfect effort compounds. A short workout still builds strength. Reading one page still expands your mind. Saving a small amount still increases your financial stability. Small actions done consistently become big changes over time. The beauty of the snowball effect is that it doesn't care how small you start. What matters is that you start and that you keep going. At first, your snowball looks tiny, almost meaningless. You push and nothing seems to move, but then suddenly something shifts. The snowball gets heavier, bigger, faster. You're no longer dragging yourself forward. Your habits begin to carry you. Your mind begins to align with your goals. Your identity evolves. Your standards rise. And soon you find yourself doing things that the old version of you would have avoided or given up on. One of the greatest moments in personal growth is when you realize your habits have become automatic. You no longer skip the gym because working out feels normal. You no longer force yourself to study because learning has become part of your routine. You no longer struggle with discipline because discipline has become your default. This is what happens when your habits begin to work for you. They create a system that supports your success even on your weakest days. Most people never get to this stage because they quit during the slow phase. They never stay consistent long enough to experience the power of compounded effort. They assume growth isn't happening simply because they can't see it, but growth is often invisible at first. Just like the snowball rolling silently on the hill, your progress builds quietly behind the scenes. Your mind gets sharper, your confidence deepens, your resilience grows, your skills strengthen. By the time the results become visible, the real transformation has already happened inside you. Consistency also builds trust with yourself. Every time you show up, even in a small way, you send a message to your mind, I keep my promises. That kind of self-trust is life changing. It removes doubt, it strengthens discipline, it gives you the courage to pursue even bigger goals. When you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with excuses, you stop delaying your dreams, you stop sabotaging your progress, you take control. Once your habits begin to work for you, growth becomes faster and easier. You feel motivated more often because progress becomes addictive. You make decisions more confidently because success becomes familiar. You start aiming higher because you've proven to yourself that improvement is possible. The snowball keeps rolling, gaining speed, gaining power, gaining influence over every area of your life, and it all begins with consistency, not a perfect plan, not extraordinary talent, not big steps. Just small actions repeated until momentum replaces effort. Once your snowball starts rolling, your future becomes brighter, your habits become easier, and your potential becomes limitless. The moment you take responsibility for your life, your direction changes, and this shift, though invisible to others, becomes the turning point for everything that follows. Improvement may be slow at first, almost unnoticeable, but once responsibility takes root in your mind, momentum begins to build in ways you never imagined. Most people wait for life to get easier before they decide to grow. They wait for motivation, for support, for the perfect timing, or for someone else to push them. But real transformation begins the moment you say, my life is mine. My choices are mine. My results are mine. That acceptance is not a burden. It's the beginning of real power. Responsibility is not about blame. It's about ownership. It's the realization that your future isn't shaped by what happens to you, but by how you respond to it. When you decide to take responsibility, excuses stop sounding like explanations and start sounding like traps. You begin to see the difference between reasons and results. People who don't take responsibility always look outward. They point to circumstances, people, luck, timing, and disadvantages. But people who take responsibility look inward. They search for what they can improve, what they can learn, what they can change. That internal shift is what separates growth from stagnation. At first, taking responsibility feels heavy. You begin to confront truths you may have avoided for a long time. You realize that some of your habits are harming you. You recognize that your attitude has held you back. You see that some of your fears were self-created, and some of your obstacles were actually excuses wearing convincing masks. It's uncomfortable. Growth always begins in discomfort, but the discomfort is temporary, while the benefits of responsibility last a lifetime. Once you commit to responsibility, you no longer wait for life to improve, you start improving yourself. You become the source of your own momentum. The changes may be small at first. You wake up earlier, you read a little more, you complain a little less, you take your work more seriously, you treat people with more intention. None of these actions feel extraordinary in the moment, but collectively they build the foundation of a stronger, more disciplined version of you. People often misunderstand slow progress. They assume that because change happens quietly, it isn't happening at all. But responsibility works like a seed planted deep in the ground. You don't see it grow at first, but something is happening beneath the surface. Every responsible choice strengthens your character. Every responsible action rewires your habit. Every responsible decision moves you one step closer to the person you were meant to become. The speed doesn't matter. What matters is direction. Once you choose responsibility, your direction shifts. You stop drifting and start steering. Life becomes far more predictable when you take responsibility because you're no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You begin to see patterns in your behavior, patterns in your thoughts, patterns in your decisions. With responsibility comes awareness, and with awareness comes control. You no longer repeat the same mistakes unconsciously. You no longer react impulsively. You begin to anticipate the consequences of your actions, and you choose wisely instead of blindly. This gradual strengthening of judgment is one of the greatest gifts responsibility gives you. And then something powerful happens. The world begins to respond differently to you. People trust you more. Opportunities appear more often. Challenges feel less threatening. You feel more capable, more grounded, more confident, not because the world changed, but because you changed. Responsibility sharpens your mind, strengthens your emotions, and elevates your standards. Your entire presence becomes more stable. You carry yourself with quiet certainty because you know you're no longer running from your life. You're leading it. As your sense of responsibility deepens, your momentum grows. You begin to accomplish things you once thought were out of reach. Tasks that used to feel difficult now feel manageable. Problems that once stressed you now serve as opportunities to prove your growth. You begin to trust your ability to handle challenges, and this trust becomes your confidence. True confidence isn't loud. It's the calm belief that you can handle whatever comes next because you've handled everything so far. One of the most profound effects of responsibility is the way it transforms your relationship with time. When you're not responsible, time controls you. Days pass without progress, weeks go by without change, and you find yourself living the same life year after year. But when you take responsibility, you control time. You set goals, you plan actions, you make intentional choices. Time becomes an asset instead of an enemy. Each day becomes a chance to move forward, not a cycle to repeat. Eventually, responsibility becomes freedom. You realize you are not trapped by your past. You are not defined by your mistakes. You are not limited by where you started. Responsibility gives you the power to rewrite your story, to rise from any setback, to grow from any failure. Improvement may be slow at first, but once responsibility becomes your way of life, momentum begins to accelerate. Suddenly, the impossible begins to look possible. The difficult becomes achievable. The future becomes exciting instead of intimidating. Taking responsibility is the moment your life turns in a new direction. It is the spark that ignites momentum. And once momentum builds, the person you become is someone even your past self wouldn't recognize. Not because life gave you more, but because you decided to become more. So now, my friend, after everything we've talked about, after the small disciplines, the consistency, the momentum, the responsibility, there comes a moment where you must look at yourself and make a decision. Not tomorrow, not next month, not when life calms down, now. Because your future is not built in the future, it's built in this moment. Right here, right now, this is the moment you choose who you will become. Am I going to keep drifting? Am I going to keep waiting for motivation? Am I going to let excuses write the story of my life? Or will you finally stand tall and say, no more, this is my turning point, this is where I take over, this is where I take responsibility, build momentum, and start rolling my snowball? Life isn't asking you to be perfect. It's asking you to be committed. It's asking you to start small and keep going. It's asking you to choose discipline over delay, purpose over excuses, growth over fear. And the beautiful thing is, you already have everything you need to begin. The strength is inside you, the potential is inside you, the ability is inside you. You just have to activate it. Imagine this: you wake up tomorrow and decide to live with intention. You decide to read one page. You decide to practice one skill. You decide to speak kindly. You decide to show gratitude. You decide to improve 1% each day. Do you realize how unstoppable you would become? Do you realize how much momentum you could create? Do you realize how far your life could go if you simply refused to stop? And listen closely, because this part matters. Your future does not care about your past. Your future is not limited by your failures. Your future is not controlled by your mistakes. Your future is shaped by what you do next. You have the right to start again. You have the right to rebuild. You have the right to rise. You have the right to claim a better life, a stronger life, a more disciplined life. If your old habits created an old version of you, new habits can create a new version of you. If your past choices created past results, new choices can create new results. That's the gift of the snowball effect. It shows you that you don't need dramatic change. You just need daily change. You don't need giant steps. You just need steady steps. You don't need instant success. You just need constant progress. Hear this: discipline is not punishment. Discipline is empowerment. Discipline says, I believe in my future enough to work for it. Discipline says, I am willing to build the life I want, even when it's hard. Discipline says, I don't wait for miracles, I build them. And consistency, that's your secret weapon. Consistency doesn't shout, it whispers, and its whisper says, keep going, keep going, keep going. One day you'll look back and realize that the whisper of consistency built a roar of success. Responsibility is your crown, wear it. Responsibility says, my life is my creation. Responsibility says, I own my actions and therefore I own my results. Responsibility says, I'm not a victim, I'm a builder. Now imagine standing 5 years from today. Imagine looking at a version of yourself who is stronger, wiser, richer, calmer, more disciplined, more confident, more powerful. That version of you exists. It's real, it's possible, it's waiting, but it needs one thing from you: your decision today. Because 5 years from now, you're going to arrive somewhere. The question is, will you arrive by design or by accident? This is your moment of design. Stand up in your own life. Become the architect. Become the builder. Become the leader of your days instead of the follower of your emotions. You are capable of far more than you've ever demanded from yourself. And once you demand more, you will get more. Once you raise your standards, your life will rise with them. Once you change your habits, your circumstances will follow. Let this be the moment where you tell yourself, I am no longer playing small. I am no longer waiting for permission. I am no longer postponing my greatness. I am rolling my snowball today, right now. There will be days when you feel tired, days when you feel unmotivated, days when you feel like quitting, but those are the days that define you. Those are the days where champions are made. Those are the days where progress becomes permanent. Remember, you don't need to feel strong to be strong. You don't need to feel motivated to move forward. You don't need perfect conditions to start. You only need the courage to start despite imperfection. And the moment you do, momentum will join you. Discipline will back you. Confidence will grow in you. Opportunities will appear for you. And suddenly your life begins to change. Not by luck, not by accident, but by intention. So take the step, push the snowball, start the small habits, build the consistency, accept the responsibility, because one day soon you'll look back and say, that was the moment everything changed, that was the moment I took control, that was the moment I decided to rise. And your future self, the strong, unstoppable, disciplined version of you, will whisper, thank you.